historically, at election time, rates do come down.
Yep.
I mean, it always has historically happened. Hello, this is James Harper, and welcome to the Real Estate Halftime Show. Today, we have three special guests live here in our studio in Hendersonville, Tennessee, our special secret headquarters. So stay tuned. We are going to have an awesome show where we're going to talk everything and anything about real estate, about the upcoming elections, the market, and even a little bit about NAR settlement if you don't know anything about it. Stay tuned. We're coming live.
It's time for the Real Estate Halftime Show. Sit back, relax, and listen to Nashville's premier inside scoop to real estate with the Mortgage Extraordinaire himself, James Harper.
Welcome back to the studio. I want to introduce our three very special guests, and we're going to dive right into this episode of the Real Estate Halftime Show. And we have with us, with a combined real estate experience of over 50 years. We're just going to say over 50 years.
I think that works.
With the three people here. And first, I want to introduce Teddy Pins. And welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
And Shasta Sides.
Thanks for having me.
And Jen Davis.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So combined, these three folks, these three ladies and gentlemen, work at Parks Compass. We don't know which one we're using today, but we'll just say Compass.
We use them both. I mean, it's a recent merger. So
it's a recent merger.
Yeah, we're all part of the same family.
So welcome to the show, and thanks for coming in and spending a few minutes with us or with me. And we want to jump right in and tell us a little bit about how each of you got into the real estate business and why. What was your purpose? What was your real vision for wanting to get in? Was it just to do something different, to have freedom, to have some flexibility, to make money?
Yeah.
What was the real reason why you got in the business, Teddy?
It's the same one for all realtors. We call this the last stop on the career train. After you've done everything else, you go, I think I'll work for myself.
Well, wait a minute. That was 23 years ago for you.
It was, yeah.
So that was your last stop 23 years ago.
It was. This was my last stop on the career train. I found it early because my parents were involved in real estate in Southern California. So they were some of the leaders in our market and worked on a lot of new construction. Master plan development was the largest in the country at the time. So I was exposed to it, and that's what especially affirmed for me that I would never, ever do this. But my mom reminds me I should be thankful for it every day because it put me through college, and I am. And it has changed my life and others. And so it's been quite a journey. But I went to school for marketing and communications, background in photography, and realized when I moved back to Nashville, originally from California, but I've been here since '91, and that my heart's in client service. Like I love helping people, and the beauty of being able to help people at a time in their life that's in a top 5 stressor is the gift. Because if I didn't do this, I would pursue coaching and counseling. And so I really love that aspect of being able to help people at a critical time in their journey to have them feel trust and confidence that I'm going to advise them the same way I would myself or my family and loved ones.
And 23 years later, you're still doing it.
We're doing okay.
And that's
doing well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Shasta Sides, tell us your story. What caused you to jump into the real estate business?
It's a great
because I don't think anybody just wakes up one day and says, "Hey, I'm going to do this as soon as I graduate from high school." We all evolve into this business in some form or fashion.
It's a great question, James. I moved to Nashville in 2001, got my license in 1999, and found myself there because after college, I just loved serving people. I loved taking care of people. I loved building relationships and getting to know people. And through my desire to service, I realized after I was on a plane, I was a flight attendant, side note. I was on a plane one night coming from Knoxville to Philly, and a girl that I knew walked on the flight and was like, "Hey, you want to, interview for a new construction real estate company in Knoxville?" And I was like, Absolutely. And so at that moment, I knew I was going to go get my real estate license and express my ways to serve people and build relationships in the real estate business instead of at 30,000 feet on top of a plane.
So it started as a flight attendant and evolved into real estate.
Absolutely.
Mine, I was at a Halloween party coming out of engineering, and I had been downsized out of a company. It kind of had a severance package, and I was at a Halloween party kind of acting like I was a DJ.
Nice.
Really sucked at it. But I was dressed up as the part, and a lady comes up to me and said, "You'd be great in the mortgage business." And I'm like, "What are you even talking about? I don't even know what this is. I'm not getting rid of my degree."
Were you spinning records?
I really wasn't.
Yeah, it's similar though. You're spinning plates here.
I acted cool, but I really
good.
was just so. That's how I jumped into it. But no, that's
Love
good.
it.
That's a good story. All right, what about you, Jen?
Well, this is my final career on the career train.
So you're in your final chapter too.
I'm in my final chapter.
Ready to go out to the pasture.
I am.
No. Lots of time.
Lots of time, but this is probably it for me as far as careers go because I've done it all. But I liked customer service, being there for people, the people interaction, and I like working for myself. Preferably
we all
myself.
do, yeah.
Yes. So I have. I fell into this. My grandmother was in real estate. My family has had a moving company for 186 years. So I've been around people moving my entire life. And I don't like to move people. I can't lift the furniture and don't want to pack people's houses. And I don't want to deal with it when their stuff is broken. So why not sell them the house they're going to move into?
I had a real estate agent on the show one time that literally had to do that. She said that there were some squatters. The sellers became squatters. They would not move, and literally said, she walked in there and said, "Hey, you guys got to get out today. The clients are on the curb with their moving truck," and literally started packing these people's house.
I could do that. I could have them
I couldn't
packed in a
imagine
day.
that transaction.
Well, as real estate agents, our hat, we wear many hats, and moving sometimes is
Part of it.
What do you think the toughest thing is, Shasta, in your business right now? What do you like today compared to when you got in it 20 some years ago?
I think the
What do you
toughest
think?
thing
Is there anything different?
Well, it's always been communication, trying to communicate, with the sellers and the buyers, trying to negotiate and trying to diffuse some myths of what's going on in the market or in the industry, whether that's sellers think that their house is worth X amount or buyers, if it's a buyer's or seller's market. So I think just staying on top of everything, communicating that effectively is probably one of our tougher challenges. And that goes back to education, just making sure that everybody's informed and educated and operating, ethically, like all of the, we're taught in real estate. And that's one thing I love about this team, because we have so much experience. And Teddy has got, so much education under, as his background, that we feel strongly we can serve a lot of the buyers and sellers and, keep the experience positive and giving them informed, accurate information.
Yeah. And so, Teddy, what do you think? What do you think's changed today about transaction, or maybe even the buyers that are out there, or the sellers? What's changed? What's different? Anything?
Well,
or is it still get back to the grassroots of how we navigate with people in the transaction? Yeah.
Well, it helps having my mother, Bobby Noreen, who's sort of infamous in this area and even nationally with her experience of being a 40-some-year broker and selling houses through the 80s and the 18 and 19%. Homes were still sold. People need to move. People's housing needs change. And so there is a certain sense of consistency that will always happen, right? And, the statistics and the ebbs and flows of what happens in the market, people still do need to move. It just may happen in different quantities and things like that. But social media changed some things as far as the way we market homes. I think the way people acquire clients and people are relying a lot on electronic media. We still build our business based on relationships. And we know that people want to work with people that they know, like, and trust. And that's not often easily understood simply by slick media. I love social media as a tool, but
blessing and a curse.
Yeah, it really is for all of us, and I think we can recognize the spaces for that and for families and children. But no, it's the same thing about taking care of people. I mean, really, people need help in traversing complex decision making and transaction, and really, my job is to help them make the decision that they ultimately want to make. Right. So eliminating the noise and the confusion and everyone else that's telling them you should live here, I got a low rate, work with this person, like those are biased opinions. And my job is to help bring an independent voice of objectivity that can help them assess their needs and goals and align something that works for their family and help that happen in a way that doesn't feel as stressful as it inherently is.
Yeah, I think one of my past coaches that I've had said it very clearly, and it always resonates with me. No money ever exchanges hands until confusion is cleared, until you clear the confusion. And so when we have buyers out there or sellers, but let's talk about buyers that really are trying to figure out whether to buy today, or sellers saying, I don't want to get off of this 3.5% or 3% interest rate.
Yeah.
We have to really figure out how to clear the confusion on why now is a good time to buy or not to buy. But as you said, Teddy, the reality of it is real estate's always going to be a dynamic market. People are always going to be changing jobs. People are always going to be increasing their family size or downsizing because of their families, going off their own ways or whatever. So you're always going to have this dynamic situation. And I've always said, even when I got in the mortgage business, that I don't care if the rates are 13%. People are still going to buy because back in the 80s, they were 13, 14%, as you guys probably know, not to put any age on you.
49 and proud, but a mother of 40 years, she sold in the 18 to 19% interest rates. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
it's really just not about the rate. I mean, that's where I think people get themselves in the ditch. And the problem is they're looking for a way to determine value. So one of the things we ask new agents is, what is something you pay more for that you could pay less? And the answer is really everything, right? From your technology to your toilet paper, you could pay less than what you pay for the stuff that you're using. But I think often in mortgages, it has been because they don't understand all the components to it. At the end of the day, it's just somebody where I write a check. It's a commodity. So the only method that they have to compare that is the rate. And so we have to have them understand that, yes, at the end of the day, you will be writing a check to this person, hopefully in a direct deposit, and you'll never, quote, think about it again. But our job is to have them think about it again every year, where we're doing business reviews with them and looking at real estate as an asset, a part of their portfolio. And so we're not just buying, checks and Cheerios here. Like you're working with a partner that especially because there's so many mortgage products out there, that you need to be familiar with the fact that, like, this isn't necessarily a set it and forget it. The 30-year might not be the answer for you in your situation, right? There's so many tools for that. And so we're the first line with them to help look at all those things, from what's the house, what's the area, what are the conditions, and then the financing piece of that. Turn that over to the experts and let them coach and teach them about how this is important, and that the service aspect, and not just getting to closing, but how this looks like in the totality of their financial picture is more than just a commodity.
That's a great dissertation of really, I mean, to summarize a lot of different things.
Does that satisfy my application?
That was great.
I've always said, if I don't do this,
hit the highlight reel.
You guys work you got banking hours, right?
Yes. That's all we do. We work only from 9 to 5 and sometimes leave early.
Oh, wonderful. You have holidays off too, right?
Yes.
Same as real estate agents.
Yeah, same as real estate agents. Yeah. We never call you on the weekends asking for a new pre-approval letter.
Yes.
Good gracious.
So we have an upcoming election.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Who's running today?
It could all change.
Oh, it could.
And honestly, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, I think it's a scary time for all of us. I think no matter who gets into office, not to get into a political situation.
Sure.
I think it's just going to be a lot of things happening that are unique, different, and out of the norm. So, how do you feel like the market is warming up to be potentially in the next 6 months to a year? And what does that picture kind of look like if you had a crystal ball? Shasta?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what I hear a lot in the market
Yeah.
is, oh gosh, it's an election year. Our houses are not going to sell. No, there's, this fear there of what to do, where to make the next move.
Yeah.
I'll let you hand that off, Ted. But
Well, it's just not about that.
But,
right? Jen, who are you voting for? Just
Yeah.
no.
I don't vote.
Right, she's independent.
There you go.
Unfortunately,
I
sometimes
try to stay out of politics.
And I think in a lot of ways it would serve all of us better to stay out of politics. And I don't
Yes.
just mean realtors, but turn off your television, friends. Stop. Don't listen to the news that's fed to you. Choose the news that you read. And I do say read because I'll go to my parents' house and the news comes on at about 5:30 when they start making dinner, and then it transitions into fun time at about 7, right? And these are boomers, like these are hippie boomers, but they still watch this stuff, and of course it's a lot of negativity, right? Like that's what entices people. We want drama and excitement. Like, I don't know if our lives are boring during the day, but I can wake up and not need to see a horror movie or go on a roller coaster to be scared. There's plenty of things to be scared about. So I don't need any additional media for that. But yes, election years are transition years, and transition years bring fear and opportunity and all the things. I do care who gets in there, but that more from a space of policy and diplomacy, rather than how is that going to affect my pocketbook? Because yes, I consider that, but I believe there's a much bigger machine, right? So we can spin it any way for what. But the housing market is affected by an election year. Often we see, and we are experiencing this right now, where there is a bit of delay in decision making.
Yeah.
Like, what's going to happen? I'm going to wait till after the election. And what I've learned, in investing in real estate and in stocks and all those things is, the concept of dollar cost averaging. Often you're going to miss out by waiting for an opportunity than if you just get in the game and do it a bit at a time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we've talked on the show about, the cost of waiting.
Yeah.
And we've actually done whiteboard demonstrations of the cost of waiting.
yeah.
I think it's been harder for me to sell than ever.
Yes.
I've had to sell, resell, sell, and resell to maintain clients. And it's because of all the noise out there. It's because of the bait and switch techniques that are going on. It is because the fear with buyers that get really, really hot and all of a sudden just completely retract.
Well, they'll just run you. They'll run 2 or 3 of you lenders through the gauntlet.
Yeah.
And then at the last minute, they might go with an online resource, and they won't with us because we will discourage them heavily, and we can show them time and time again where just because it seems cute and that you can click and Uberize your mortgage experience, that's not what you're looking for in this space.
No.
And so I don't envy what you all are going through, but I think that's a realtor's job too on the front end to educate the clients on what's the distinction between lenders. Because if the client's following the direction that we set and the process that we set, we tell them, just like flight attendants do, hey, sit back and enjoy the movie. I'll tell you when it's time for the seatbelt.
That's good.
Yeah. Like,
I like
think
that
of
one.
all the operations that happened from the time that you book a flight till the time that you arrive in your destination. So there's even a list of like 88 things that can go wrong. And I'll tell them to put that in their drawer. And until then, just enjoy the drinks and the peanuts and allergies, but well, it's number 86.
I can already see this being a short right
Yeah,
here.
no, well, it is.
Right, Zach?
The airline analogy works pretty well because people understand like they're in a volatile situation. While the flight service people, professionals are bringing you peanuts and drinks, what they're really trained to do is keep you safe in an emergency. Right. And I think we take for granted that the lender and the realtor are there to keep us safe in emergency. You're not paying me for how much time I'm spending writing paperwork. You're paying for the experience to get you out of the ditch. When you hire an attorney, you want the best, but you never want to have to hire one.
Good. So good. So a lot of discussion with
a lot of passion, a lot
NAR,
going on. Yeah.
With NAR. So for those listeners out there that don't have any idea what NAR is and who it is and what it's for, who wants to explain that? Who wants to jump in there? And
Jen, are you deferring? You want me
I am deferring to you.
Well, NAR is the National Association of Realtors. As I understand it, it is the largest membership association in the country.
True.
Second is nursing. Yeah, nursing. So has a lot of members, which of course can generate a lot of money and a lot of influence and a lot of lobbying power. And we should be grateful to NAR in many ways, in the sense that, in the Wild West of real estate, there wasn't much regulation, and therefore there was a lot of imagine just Craigslist for real estate. And so NAR was created. You don't have to be a realtor to sell real estate, right? But if you are a member of the National Association of Realtors, that's what makes you a realtor. And the only distinction is that you have to abide by the code of ethics. And you want that, because often when people aren't doing that, or there's no regulation or licensing, as we have, in each state, there's a broader body of a code of ethics that we got to follow. So NAR, of course, recently had to intervene into a lawsuit that I think everyone's heard of, but has confused some people as to what's really happening, right?
So if I'm Joe Buyer,
yep,
and I'm ready to buy a house, what's changed for me? If you're going to come to me and offer your services, what's different for me as I go to try to buy a home?
Financially,
how are
I would say, if I may, or Shasta, you want to share to that?
What's going to be different? I mean, how are you going to present something to me today versus yesterday before? So I guess we need to back up here.
Yeah.
So ultimately, as of August 17th, which was this past Saturday,
yep,
there were some new laws put in place, or guidance as to how real estate agents advertised their commissions.
Yep.
And it couldn't be advertised on MLS, which is the there's several MLSs out there, but it's where real estate agents or realtors post your house for sale and put all the criteria about your home: how many beds, how many baths, whatever the amenities are, and
it's the database.
One of the most important things is how real estate commissions are going to be paid.
Well,
there was some discrepancy that some hungry attorneys got a hold of. And go ahead and elaborate on that.
Well, to the consumers, that it is the lesser part of what's important in the MLS. But of course, if you want someone to help you, and I compare this to like a court-appointed attorney that's defending a criminal, who pays for that? Taxpayers. The free people pay for the person to defend that, because they deserve that right as part of our laws and legislation. So in real estate, we didn't used to have buyer agency. You wanted to buy a house, you would go through the newspaper, or you would go find a house, you'd drive by and you'd call the number on the sign, and you'd call the listing agent, and that listing agent would help you buy that house. That listing agent works and has a fiduciary responsibility to the seller. So that seller has agreed to pay that listing agent, and that buyer had no representation. And consumer protection laws changed that to where they felt that that buyer deserved representation and an agent. Well, unfortunately, that agent has to work for something, and so they allocated part of the commission to be paid towards that buyer's agent for their services. So unfortunately, I think agents often would say, my services are free to you. Now, they're not, because the buyer's ultimately paying for all of it when they buy the house. That's right. In the house is not just sticks and bricks. We're not buying personal property or furniture, but they're buying commission is included, just like there are with all products and services we buy. And there's closing costs. And you can pay those out of pocket, or you can finance those as part of the purchase of the home, right? So the sticks and bricks cost $450,000. To buy the house costs $500,000. And it's similar to a car, right? What's all in? And so often it's a checkers. I think it's really more of a checkers of like, where are we putting the money and what do we see? We don't want to see. I mean, do you think that shipping is free from Amazon? Go ahead. I'll wait. It's not, friends. It's not free. It's never been free, but they packaged it in a way that the American economy loves because it feels good to know I'm getting free shipping. And I'll even pay you a front-loaded fee to have that privilege.
But if I'm a mortgage loan officer,
yep.
And if I'm going to play devil's advocate, and I have a buyer that just called me, and they don't have a clue about this whole process, and I'm trying to educate them. Maybe they're a first-time home buyer, or maybe they're a returning buyer that just never paid attention before. One of my pitches is going to be, hey, one of the nice things about me referring you to Shasta is you don't have to pay Shasta.
That's right.
Right.
And so one of the pitches, if I'm trying to refer or help a client get representation for the buy side of their home, and I want Shasta to really have an opportunity to do this transaction with me because we advocate for each other and we do business together. I'm going to really try to push Shasta on the client, not steer, but at least explain to them that, hey, if you want to try to use Shasta, you don't have to use Shasta. Maybe you want to use Jen, but either way, you're not going to have to pay for it. So I think it's a great idea that you pick a real estate agent, whether it is Shasta or whether it is Jen or somebody else completely, because you don't have to pay for it.
Well, and that's why we're here. So thank you. And we're going to change that right now because unfortunately, agents are why we're in this situation.
Now that's not true today.
It was not true yesterday or pre-August 17th. But that, unfortunately, is the way we sold it, right? Like agents.
May I? Because
please, Jen does a different process. And it's good.
I do a different process, and because when I started in real estate, I was taught to, when I go to my buyer, explain to them, hey, I get paid 3%. This is what I'm doing to earn this.
That's fantastic.
This is my fee, and then I also have a base commission, and then there's also I go over everything. Like there's other fees besides the 3% that you're going to pay me, but this is why I'm worth it, and this is what I'm doing for you. And
that right there is the number one problem with people that have never done that.
And so I've had clients where they purchased a home and we would walk in and I'm like, just so you know, I just want you to be aware. Remember, my fee is 3%. This home is only offering to pay me out of the price of the home, 2.5% of that is going to come to me. Just that is what they're giving me. So you are going to be responsible for the rest at the closing table.
Yeah, let's say they want to buy it for sale by owner.
Yeah,
that is sale by owner. I want them to buy it for sale by owner. It's a nightmare most times because that seller's not using an agent because they want to save money. So then you've got two people fighting over the same nickel, and what we have found and statistics will show, those people end up paying more in the long run for what the transaction that they satisfied of not using agents. Now, I understand and I believe there's a lot of agents that don't earn their 2 apples, 3 apples, whatever this is, right? It's never been set by law, so that point or soundbite is just not true. But most agents, or they were taught, hey, this is what is customary to be paid, but now they need to understand, no, you actually need to quantify your value, demonstrate that on the front end, because you can't show a home unless they've signed a buyer rep agreement where you've outlined what your fee is. And so I think there will be a lot of people that exit the business because they're not comfortable with that. And that's okay, right? Like it was a space that was just like free shipping with Amazon. And now if you had to see how much that shipping costs, because if you've ever shipped something, you realize shipping's expensive. And so it's baked into that.
Yeah, I definitely have had a lot of clients that have signed buyer rep agreements that don't even know what they've signed.
Because the agent didn't sit down and explain it, unfortunately.
Right? And so then the agent will call and say, well, how come that client is under a buyer's rep agreement and they just went and put an offer on this other house? And I'm like, well, do they know they're really under a buyer's rep agreement? Because I think a large portion of them don't.
They don't.
They don't know what that means.
They send them an e-sign document. They just click, click, click.
Yep.
And that's why we sit down. And Jen was taught this way. And that's the way we try to educate our agents that then can educate their clients. Let's be really transparent about all the things. There's nothing to be ashamed of that we get paid to provide a service. Now, if you don't think that's worth it to you, then the agent can decide what they want that to be. But for us, it's going to be consistent because I don't want people to feel like when they come to our client event, did that person get a better deal with me because they're friends with Ted? Absolutely not. I think there should be a transparency and fairness across the board that an agent sets their price. Do you go to the car wash and say, hey, will you all take $10.95 today instead of $15? Well, you're slow. Nobody's here. You can take my $10 now. And they might, right? But that's not how restaurants or most businesses work. It's not a negotiation for products and services. We're not selling used cars, and that's no disrespect to that. But have a fee, be consistent, have it in writing, explain it clearly, let them sign agreeing to it. And the quicker that we move out of the sellers paying my fee, because they're not, you're paying the fee. It's whether it gets financed as part of the house or not.
All right, so let's go back to Jen's example here.
Yeah.
And so client has to come up with another 0.5%. So let's just use some quick, easy numbers. Let's just say it's a $400,000 home. So now that 0.5% becomes $2,000, right? That now your buyer is going to have to pay to have your representation,
Right.
because you want to be able to get paid for your services. Now that is, if you can't get the seller to pay that extra $2,000, now the buyer is responsible for it. How does that impact buyers? Because we all know sitting here at this table that
The seller was never paying it in the first place.
well, this is true. That's a
We
whole
gotta
different
get
topic.
no,
right?
we got to get out of the language of seller is paying it because ultimately
it's
you're
financed. You're all,
and where it's
which
where
I
we're
say that all the
you're
time.
the business. I mean, unfortunately, we're going to ask you to pay for it, James. That we want to roll it into the price.
And I think that's one of the biggest thing with builders right now. Not to get off topic here, but if a builder's given $10,000 in closing cost, point blank, it's built into the purchase price. I mean,
you can buy it for $400.
You can buy it for
or you can buy
$400,
it for
$390
or $390.
Yes,
and not get the bonus bucks, right?
Yes.
Sorry,
you
go
get the
back.
bonus
That's-
bucks.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, all of my clients who have been in that situation have brought the extra $2,000
That's fantastic.
to the closing table.
I think that's really
have not
fantastic, Jen, because you're the first person I've ever heard so far that's happened. I think that's great that you've already got that in your mindset and in your ability to, talk to a new prospect.
Everyone always asks me, "What are you going to do?" I'm like, "Nothing different. Nothing's changing."
See,
with
you were
the
taught
way
that way.
I was,
Yeah, you were taught that way.
That was
You
your
didn't know any
process.
better.
That was
Well,
your
I didn't know better because
Correct.
that's how much I'm going to charge, right? And I can charge 4% or 5%, whatever I want to charge. I can charge, right?
And there's
Right.
clients that you should charge 4% and 5%. Like really, like there's it's X's and O's, friends. It's like if some people knew how much work you were going to be as a client, they would charge you differently, right? And we know that of ourselves. Like there's some deals and experiences we have where you go, I shouldn't have paid a nickel for that meal, or I shouldn't have paid. I want my clients and our clients, and we consistently hear this, to not feel uncomfortable about what they paid for our services because we earned it. And I think that's the challenge, is that Jen and our team explains those things on the front end. We're very explicit. We're like, this is what we do to earn our fee, and this is the fee. And we give them a buyer net sheet so they can see an outline of cost in addition to the estimate that the lender's providing, right? We just want them to understand all the things. And when you go, if your budget's $10,000 to buy a car, don't go look at a $10,000 car because taxes and insurance and title cost more. So like if you literally only have $10 in your pocket, you can't go buy a $10 hamburger because there are 9.75% taxes on it. And those aren't free. A great example of this is the credit card charge. Why don't we compare that to real estate? And ironically, most places will charge you 3%. Are you seeing that out there when you go places?
Starting to, yeah.
Yeah, just bought some signs yesterday. It's $1,100. If you want to use a credit card, it's 3%. I send them a Venmo payment.
I went to the fair. I took my kids to the fair last night.
Yeah.
And I was going to pay by my check card, but they wanted, it's basically a credit card, I guess, and wanted to charge me that extra $3.83 to be able to buy fair tickets.
Right.
And you know what? The thing is
Sucks.
It sucks, but the truth is that the vendor was taking it. They were eating it.
Right.
And so it's just like the free shipping. I've never made this comparison with this credit card charge, but it's very interesting how I think it's similar to real estate. You didn't see it, but they had to build it into the price. So when they sold you that $10 ticket to the fair, they didn't get $10 when you used a credit card.
No.
They got $9.30. And so that adds up, especially on $500,000 purchases, right? So the same thing exists here is now you get to see it and it feels different when you pay with that cash, doesn't it? And so, yes, it is going to challenge a lot of buyers to see the fee that we're paying for. But if they see it up front and we calculate it to how this influences what they can afford, we'll put a strategy together.
So do you think it
makes sense.
scares any buyers?
Oh, terrifying.
Scares any buyers to now not want to have representation, and then on the flip side, maybe having listing agents just start, for lack of better words, hogging the commission, hogging what they've already set in place with their sellers. Do you see any of that, or do you?
I project that will happen. I think we're going to see. I think what will happen is that there will be people that will be hopefully more scrutinous of the agent they hire, because now they're using their real cash to pay for it. So they're like, what are you really doing for me? And unfortunately, as in all industries, there's a lot of people that don't earn their keep.
Good.
And so the cream will rise. I'm not afraid of what's happening right now, and nor should anybody at this table be, because we've done this a long time. We're transparent, honest in our dealings, and we earn our keep. Thankfully, there will be a lot of people that haven't done that will leave. But I do believe there will be the Uberization. People will try to turn this into a click transaction whereby you can hire an agent with a click of a button for one day, go look at one house, and you might want to buy that. And they're not going to give you a great advisement or service through that process, but it will check the box and get it done. And then will come the people that just buy directly from the seller and utilize that listing agent. They have no representation. They're not going to be given good advisement on lenders or inspectors, because that listing agent's not going to bring their most scrutinous inspector to inspect the home that they're representing selling. So then the consumer protection laws are going to go back to the lawsuits will begin as to, well, I wasn't given fair advisement. Well, you didn't have an agent. Well, I didn't want to pay for one, right? So I feel like let's just give it a few years and we'll be back in the same bunch, and we'll go back to like, this really is the right way to do this. It's just going to take the consumers a minute to get used to it, right?
Yeah, I've heard this. I've talked to several agents about this really over the past couple of months, heavily.
Yeah.
And of course, we've had our own company-wide calls, and we've had experts on, what still I'm having a hard time putting my arms around for buyers is them just really grasping how much different that could be for them, and what impact is that going to make on. We're already having a problem with buyers getting off the bench now because of interest rates. Now we've thrown this little extra twist in it that could cost them more money. But one of the things I keep hearing from real estate agents from all up and down the ladder is, hey, nothing's really changed. Nothing's really changed. Nothing's really changed. This is the way we've always done business. This is the way. But really, it hasn't been the way we've always done business.
To Jen's point,
in my opinion,
It hasn't.
Yeah, but like to Jen's point, when she has a buyer with her, she gets the buyer's rep. We get the buyer's rep sign. It says the same thing.
I know, but what I get, and I agree with you, but I guess maybe let me expand on that. They're basically saying this is the way we've always done business. Shasta has always gone to the listing agent and negotiated her commission off of whatever that is. And maybe it's behind the scenes where
she hasn't had to negotiate. That's the big distinction, is that before, when she got those properties that you said, I want to go see these, it was in the MLS. So she knew when I go show this house, if we can come to a successful transaction, there is X apples
to divvy up.
Historically, it's been 3%, and it's marketed right there. You see a number 3 in buyer brokerage that's allocated. Using this comparison to the tickets for the fair you bought the other day, did they reduce the price of the ticket when they started charging you the credit card fee? No. They made the win. They took that cost out of them and they put it on you. So it's not baked into the price anymore as transparently as it was before. So when you go to buy a $400,000 house and the seller's negotiating from a place of not paying a buyer broker 3%, that's another $12,000. Yeah, that's going to affect people's ability to even buy the house. Then you bring 3% in closing costs. And sure, we can roll all these things into the price, but imagine a multiple offer where somebody has that cash to pay that out of pocket, or they're going to hire another agent that's going to do it for $1,000 flat fee. It isn't business as usual.
Yeah.
I'm very clear that this is going to radically change the real estate industry. It's the largest change in the 100 years, and it is something to be mindful to. Fearful for the people, fearful for the pros, no, but it is going to
It's different. It is
seismically shift how it's done. And what I would say, to sum it all up, you get what you pay for, hire the pros, be scrutinous of what you're buying. And if you're not that person, then just ask somebody for a great referral and trust the advisement that you're getting from somebody that's done it a long time.
I love that.
Is experienced in your market, and you feel safe that's going to get you to the promised land.
Yeah, I love that. You like to add to that?
And I agree with Ted. I mean, you get what you pay for. And that's in all services. And
sometimes you get a win. You know, you go and you're like, goodness, man, this is...
But for the hard ones we get, the wins are keep us in the business.
Yeah, we've all hired services where it's like, you can go to Home Depot and you better know what you're buying, because if you ask for their professional opinion, often they're not a person that's utilized that product and service. So the responsibility is much more on the consumer to be that expert. And we're grateful that they have all that data available to them from the internet. But this is a very expensive transaction with a lot of complexities. And we don't say that because people can't do this. You can buy and sell a home yourself. You also can mow your own lawn, you can do your own taxes, and you can defend yourself in a court of law. You get to choose, right?
Yeah.
Burger King, get it your way, babe.
Yeah. That's good. that was very good. Very good. Well, so if we want to kind of take it from here as we look into the future.
Yeah, what's next?
What's next, man? What is next?
Good things. I'm excited.
I do think it's exciting. We have an inventory problem out there that not only just here in Nashville, but really across the country. Builders are absolutely having a heyday.
Yes.
They can't keep up. So what shifts this paradigm where we start having more inventory free up? Obviously, if interest rates come down, I think I heard a statistic that for every 1% drop in rate, it would free up
hundreds of thousands,
10 million buyers or something like that. Something really, really crazy.
But James, I don't want to let go of my 3% interest rate.
I know.
And that's why I don't want to move. So we're going to add on, we're going to modify our homes, or they want to go buy new construction because they want that new car smell, right? But the builders pulled back a little bit during the dip, right? Because COVID hit and they get terrified. And so, yeah, they're trying to play catch up. But I think the interest rates are going to be in a huge part of what influences people willing to let go of their current interest rate and make the change. Going from a 3 to a 6.5 or 7, that stings. That's a significant difference in affordability.
Yeah, it is. But going from a 3.5 or 3 to somewhere in the 5s is a little more manageable, a little bit easier to swallow. So hopefully, we'll see that happen. Historically, ever since I've been in the business for over 15 years, and historically at election time, rates do come down.
Yep.
I mean, it always has historically happened.
I think doesn't the president set the rates? Doesn't that make the difference?
Well, I will share with you just a little tidbit that historically administrations have bought into mortgage-backed securities, and that's why rates have been somewhat artificially low the last several years. and it's called mortgage-backed securities. Well, the current administration decided to abort that, and that's why we have seen maybe a more realistic interest rate, not to defend one way or the other on the spectrum, but because the current administration hasn't purchased any mortgage-backed securities, rates have gone up and not been artificially low.
And
so
I think that's important.
So you can correct it. You can help the economy by doing just that simple thing. Whether this next administration, whoever it is, decides to do that or not, something needs to stimulate the economy, because without home buying, without people buying houses and refinancing, your Home Depot and your Lowe's and all the retailers and everything that touch the services that touch buying a home, they need that. They need that stimulation.
We just don't want to do it artificially. And I think, unfortunately, that's what's often wins elections, and people feel good about, $1.50 gas and cheap milk. But the truth is, it's not 2019 anymore, and it isn't 2005. Like, you're not going to have gas be the same price forever. So, I mean, everyone has to realize, like, yes, the cost of living goes up, and hopefully incomes track and pace with that. But, technology changes, influences a lot of things, and the mortgage-backed securities is a whole interesting thing. What did you think of that movie, The Big Short?
Big Short, I was heavily involved in it, and that's another podcast on itself. That's a whole other podcast.
But those things being like, people need to understand that rates are not just something that fictitiously happened based on an administration, and that there's a perceived number.
By the way, I lost on Big Short.
Oh boy,
I tried.
Yeah, well, the key to most things in life is finding the pendulum and being in the balance. And so there is a number by which they believe the economy is balanced. And I think if people think 3 and 4 interest rates is a balanced place to be, it's just not. It costs more money. Here's really where it is. Do you want to earn more than 3 or 4% interest when you put your money in your savings account? Well, then that's how it kind of works, because the cheaper the interest rates are for your home, the cheaper your money's going to make. That's not that simple, but like, they want to make 10% returns on their investments, but they want interest rates on homes to be 3% or 4%.
Doesn't work.
That's not realistic, friends. So realize that you're not always on only one side of the coin. Let's find a balanced place where people can make fair wages, pay fair prices, they can get money at fair prices, and that's how it works. So I don't know. It's frustrating because you see so many people, and rates become that second topic to weather. Like, what's your rate? Oh, I got a 3%. There's more to the story, or you got a 5.5. Well, there's more to that story. There could have been a buy down. There could have been a promo. Somebody's credit could influence. There's just so many factors. And so when people try to compare, like, it's not like, what'd you pay for your cell phone, or what'd you pay for that Nissan, and you went to a different dealer and it was $500 difference. No, there's so many factors that influence that. So I'm grateful for the experts like you in this business that navigate all those waters.
Well, it's certainly been interesting, and it's going to continue to be interesting.
Yeah.
And so we're probably running short on time here. We could probably turn this into another whole episode in itself.
Yeah.
Any parting arguments or any parting comments, not arguments, we're not really arguing, but any parting comments that you'd like to share to the community out there, the listeners, as they decide what to do about maybe wanting to buy here in the near future?
They should work with Radius Residential Partners. The three of us.
And how do they get a hold of you?
Well, they can find us at radiusresidential.com. You can call us at 615-3787-BUY. 3787-BUY, B-U-Y.
B-U-Y.
And, of course, all the socials and Googles and things, you can find us. Like I said, we're with Parks and Compass. We've got an awesome new development launching on the west side of Nashville. We've got 17 new build townhomes available for purchase between $450 to $600. And
what's the name of that development?
It is Charlotte Row.
Charlotte Row.
Charlotte Row. So you will look at livecharlotterow.com. And we're launching that next week, so we're very excited. We'll have some events and announcements around all that. But beautiful 2-car garages, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom homes, 10-minute drive to Nashville, 5 minutes from Costco and grocery shopping. Really a gem.
I don't think they'll last long.
Yeah,
They
great
won't.
location.
Great
Yeah,
location, already built.
Already built.
built.
Like you can move in
Yeah.
30 or less, however fast you can get them money. So
That sounds fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds fantastic.
we're very grateful. But stay hopeful, people. Like be kind, be to each other, and give everybody a little bit of grace. Become
Yes.
educated. Don't just look at the headlines as to what's happening. And remember those times in your life when you have tried to save money and maybe it didn't work out for you. Consider that in the largest purchase of your life. There's never a better time to be scrutinous about it than who you hire for a financial advisor, an attorney, a real estate agent. What are some other goodies? The big decisions, right?
Yeah.
Mortgage brokers, of course.
Yes.
Mortgage brokers. Yeah, absolutely. There is a difference.
Yeah, there is.
a
There
difference.
is. And I think now more than ever, we all need to be in this together.
Yes.
I mean, we need to work together. All the different cross-functional services need to work together, because if that's going to make it work, it's going to make it work for the end buyer, the end consumer, whatever that case may be. Well, thank you all for being on the
Thank you,
show.
James.
It's been awesome.
Thank you, James.
It's
Appreciate
been
you.
awesome. We'll have lots of feedback and comments, I'm sure, because I can already tell by how this has gone that it's got some good nuggets in it. Very good nuggets. So thank you all for coming.
Well, it just begs opportunity for hopefully people to reach out, and it's personal.
Yeah.
Like everyone's circumstance in this side of what we do is personal. It's based on a lot of factors, and so don't forget that it's not going to be solved by click, click, click.
And click, you can subscribe to the Real Estate Halftime Show YouTube channel, and also the Real Estate Halftime Show on Instagram. I'm James Harper. See you next week.